Hi, this is Steve McDonald from Red Cross. You're listening to your Morning Coffee Podcast with Jay and Mike, weekly news for the new music business.
From the Associated Press, can you tell if that song is AI generated? Here are some things to check.
And from the Los Angeles Times, Spotify boycott. Artists leave garbage hole, that's in quotation marks, platform after CEO invests in AI weapons.
And from MIDiA, what is the value of a stream in 2025?
And our last story, it's from Billboard, Spotify's Q2 earnings results. What you should know. All of this plus a peek into Billboard's new K-pop fandom report. So we're going to start the show right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand!
Your morning coffee is on the air. On the air. On the air. On the air. On the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Well, Jay, so good to see you. We saw each other yesterday. We had lunch with our good friend Rolf Hansen and hung out and caught up. And
that was a lot of fun.
From childhood. I mean, a musician that you didn't know as a kid, but you met here, and what a gas! How fun!
I saw him play live 50 years ago. That's how long it's
Easy
been.
there, cowboy.
And Rolf, for those listening, he's responsible for that cool intro for the Your Morning Coffee podcast. Thank you, Rolf.
He certainly is. Yes, he is. A really fun time.
Yeah, we have some cool stuff coming up. We're going to sit down in person with David Macias, and he's the owner of 30 Tigers. Just a great guy, music fanatic. Can't wait to have that conversation. And our friend Chris Robley has a new YouTube. It's a podcast actually called Scratch Track on YouTube, and you should check it out. We're going to have him on the podcast soon too as well. And a big congratulations to our friend Shirley Halperin. She joins Rolling Stone as co-editor-in-chief. She's departing the Hollywood Reporter to become co-editor-in-chief of Rolling Stone. And she's the first woman to fill that role in the brand's 60-year legacy. Very cool.
Yeah. Halperin is a veteran music journalist and editor. Well, she'll lead Rolling Stone's music coverage alongside Sean Woods, the title's longtime executive editor, who is being promoted to co-editor-in-chief. Halperin starts her new role on September 1st, serving as both co-editor-in-chief and head of music, and will split her time between New York and Los Angeles headquarters. The duo will work closely with Rolling Stone's recently appointed CEO, Julian Holguin, to shape the brand's editorial direction. So what
Isn't
a
that
wonderful,
cool when
wonderful
good things
thing
happen
for Shirley.
to good people.
Yes.
And I was texting her that we need to have another one of our famous lunches. Can't wait to catch up with her, but she's a little bit busy right now. Another thing that's coming soon June from Luminate. There's the current state of independent music. This presentation, it's with Luminate and A2IM. It's a webinar, and it's coming up on Thursday, August 14th. And it features Luminate's Haley Jones and Chris Murator, a couple of friends of ours. This session will provide an in-depth assessment of the independent music industry's current landscape, and it really draws on Luminate's comprehensive data and insights. So if you want to gain a crucial understanding of the trends and factors shaping the future of independent music, tune in to that Luminate A2IM webinar. All the details are in your morning coffee.
Indeed. In fact, out now, Inside the Future of Music Marketing with Jay Gilbert. And that was on Bobby Owsinski's Inner Circle podcast. You did a great job. That was a really interesting conversation you guys had.
Thank you. It was one of my favorites. And I was telling a friend that, I've done over 1,000 podcast episodes, and this is one of my all-time favorites. And you and I recently had breakfast with Bobby Owsinski, and we just think the world of him. He's written, well over 25 books on the music industry and producing and engineering and artificial intelligence and marketing and all of that stuff. And I've been a big fan of his podcast and his blog for a long, long time. And we've been on each other's podcasts from time to time, but we just had the best conversation. And I was just so honored to sit down with Bobby and his Inner Circle podcast, and that's out now. You mentioned during the intro that we're going to tease this K-pop fandom report, and it's by Glenn Peoples over at Billboard, and it is absolutely stunning. K-pop is all about the fans, and with that in mind, Billboard released this new K-pop fandom in the United States report, and it's based on a survey of nearly 1,400 U.S.-based Billboard readers who are also avid K-pop fans.
Right. Well, among the survey's findings, 82% of respondents listen to K-pop 7 days a week. And while 72% of K-pop fans regularly listen to pop music, just 19% are frequent listeners of Latin music, and only 15% are regular country music listeners.
Yeah, these K-pop fans are hardcore fans. 36% of them, for 5 or more years have been listening to K-pop. Nearly half, so 46%, have followed K-pop for 2 to 5 years, and 19% have been K-pop fans for fewer than 2 years.
Right, and Glenn points out, for all their enthusiasm, K-pop fans are more likely to listen to and buy music than attend concerts. Just 47% of respondents said they had attended a K-pop concert in the previous year, with the lack of nearby performances and cost of tickets being the two most common explanations.
Yeah, that's right. So fantastic presentation by Glenn Peoples over at Billboard's. It's got these great charts and visuals. Check out the entire report on Billboard Pro. And if you don't subscribe, grab that 50% off discount in the Your Morning Coffee newsletter. There was a lot of earnings reports that came out, and Glenn reported on some of these. One of them he didn't report on. This is Elizabeth Diltz Marshall from Billboard, reported on SiriusXM. Their revenue fell 2% amid subscriber and ad declines. So SiriusXM lost about 450,000 subscribers year over year. Ouch. Mostly paid promotional users, making an improvement from the previous year.
So SiriusXM Holdings CEO Jennifer Witz acknowledged a challenging economic backdrop that caused overall advertising revenue to fall by about 2.5% for the quarter. But she pointed to the company's investments in podcasting. Podcast ad revenue was up by almost 50% from a year ago. So that's a little bit of good news with a little bit of bad news.
Yeah.
Before we start our big stories, Jay, I say we thank our sponsors.
I think that's a great idea. The Your Morning Coffee podcast is sponsored by Hypebot. Since 2004, Hypebot has chronicled the new music industry and the trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. Edited daily by our friend Bruce Houghton with help from Alana Bonilla, Hypebot and sister blog Music Think Tank are published by live music discovery and marketing platform Bands in Town.
Indeed, Bands in Town. Can't say enough about Bands in Town. Over 90 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It's the #1 artist service platform connecting over 650,000 artists with their superfans. Managers, labels, agencies, and artists access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates, across all platforms. And when I'm having lunch with Jay and when I'm doing a podcast with Jay, I am so appreciative because he is a music industry consultant, curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter, and a former executive with Universal Music, Sony Music, and the Warner Music Group.
Yes, sir. And I get to do this podcast every week with Mike Etchart, and every now and then we get to meet for lunch. Longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capital EMI, and Universal Music Groups.
All right, let's jump into this. First one is really interesting. It's by Kevin Chan over at the Associated Press. Can you tell if that song is AI generated? Here are some things to check. You may recall the fictitious rock group Velvet Sundown, which comes complete with AI generated music, lyrics, and album art, is stoking debate about how the new technology is blurring the line between the real and synthetic in the music industry, and whether creators should be transparent with their audience.
Right. Kelvin goes on to say that computer software is widely used in music production, and artificial intelligence is just the latest tool that DJs, music producers, and others, they've added to the production pipeline. But the rise of AI song generators like Suno and Udio that we talk about all the time is really set to transform the industry because they allow anyone to create songs with just a few text prompts.
So while some people do not care whether they're listening to AI-generated music, others might be curious to know. If you encounter a new song that leaves you wondering whether it's 100% made with AI, there are some methods that could reveal how it was created. So first, do a background check. If you're wondering who's behind a song, try some old-fashioned detective work.
That's right. The most obvious cues come from external factors, said Manuel Musalam. He's the head of research and development at streaming service Deezer. Does the band or artist have social media accounts? Lack of social presence might indicate there's no one there. If they do exist online, examine the kind of content they post and how long it goes back.
Is there any sign that the artist or band exists in real life? Are there any upcoming concerts you can buy a ticket for a gig? Is there footage of past concerts on YouTube? Has an established record label released their singles or albums?
Right.
All these things.
Exactly. And try going to the source. Song creators often, but not always, publish their generated tunes on the Suno or Udio platforms where they can be found by other users.
Right. The catch is that you'll have to sign up for an account to get access. Users can look up songs by track name or the creator's handle, or browse genres and playlists, but it can still be difficult to spot a song, especially if you don't know the name of the song or the creator.
That's right. And Kelvin points out song tags. Deezer has been flagging albums containing AI-generated songs as part of its efforts to be more transparent as it battles streaming fraudsters looking to make quick money through royalty payments.
Right. The Deezer app and website will notify listeners with an on-screen label AI-generated content to point out that some tracks on an album were created with song generators.
Yeah, Deezer CEO says that the system relies on in-house technology to detect subtle but recognizable patterns found in audio created by AI song generators. The company hasn't specified how many songs it's tagged, since it rolled out this feature in June, but it says up to 18% of songs uploaded to its platform on average each day are AI generated. Wow.
Crazy. So they also talk about song scanners. There are a few third-party services available online that promise to determine whether a song is human-made or generated by AI. Kelvin goes on to say, I uploaded a few songs I generated to the online detector from IRCAM Amplify, a subsidiary of French Music and Sound Research Institute, IRCAM. It said that the probability that they were AI generated ranged from 81.8% to 98% and accurately deduced that they were made with Suno.
Wow, that's crazy. As a cross-check, Kelvin says, I also uploaded some old MP3s from my song library, which got a very low AI probability score, but a handful of results shouldn't be taken as a sign of overall accuracy. The AI detector can make mistakes. It's recommended to verify the results, the detector warns.
The drawback with IRCAM's tool is that you can't paste links to songs, so you can't check tunes that you can only hear on a streaming service. There are a few other websites that let you both upload song files and paste Spotify links for analysis, but they have their own limitations. He says, when I tried them out for this story, the results were either inconclusive or flagged some AI songs as human-made and vice versa.
Yeah, the next thing he says is check the lyrics. AI song tools can churn out both music and lyrics. Many serious users like to write their own words and plug them in because they've discovered that AI-generated lyrics tend to be bad. Casual users, though, might prefer to let the machine write them. So bad rhyming schemes or repetitive lyrical structures might be a clue that a song is not man-made, but that's subjective.
Right. So he says some users report that Suno tends to use certain words in its lyrics like neon, shadows, or whispers. If a song includes these words, it's a dead giveaway that it's AI, says Lucas Rams, who's a Philadelphia area resident. He has used Suno to create 3 albums for his AI band Sleeping with Wolves, but he writes his own lyrics. He says, I don't know why I love it. He says, I don't know why it loves to put neon in everything.
Kelvin goes on to say that there's no easy answers. AI technology is improving so quickly that there's no foolproof way to determine if content is real or not. And experts say you can't just rely on your ear. Musalam, from Deezer, says that in general, it can be difficult to tell if a track is AI generated just from listening. And it's only becoming more challenging as the technology gets increasingly advanced. Generative models like Suno and Udio are constantly changing, meaning that old identifiers like vocals having a distinct reverb, they're not necessarily valid anymore.
Wow.
Cool.
Good article, though.
Yeah,
very
really
interesting.
Good article.
Very interesting. Our next one is from Olivia Jones over at MIDiA. What is the value of a stream in 2025? More parties than ever are becoming frustrated with streaming. For even many successful artists, streaming is a minority income stream as fandom-related endeavors like live performances, merchandise, and brand deals prove to be more lucrative. Yet, as more artists and labels adopt fandom-focused strategies, many are finding that streaming in its current state is ill-equipped for fandom building too.
Yeah, I found this really interesting. And again, this is from Olivia Jones over at MIDiA. She says that in the MIDiA's 2024 independent label survey, over half of the labels that they surveyed agreed that streaming is not a place to build artist fandom, and 3/4 agreed that it's time for a new model to run alongside streaming. Of course, streaming revenue is not an issue for everyone. Larger labels stand to benefit the most from streaming's pro rata remuneration model, but even they are unhappy with the current framework.
Right, as streams are not providing much financial value to the vast majority of artists, nor are they particularly helpful for building fandom, it is worth questioning the value of a stream in today's climate. However, streams do still matter as an indicator of artist success rather than a cause.
Yeah, she goes on to say that you look at fandom first and then streaming second. She says that streaming is no longer the only way for artists to be successful. As a growing number of artists shift focus away from sheer stream counts and toward new fandom-centric strategies, streaming numbers are becoming less of an ironclad goal and more of a consequence of the success in other areas.
This is not to say that streaming is no longer meaningful. It is the dominant form of music consumption today and the main driver of the recording industry. However, by honing in on other success metrics like identity resonance, a major indicator of fandom, artists can begin to let go of the numbers game. If they focus on cultivating fandom, streams will inevitably follow.
Yeah. It's a lot of this, Mike, today is more about engagement, meeting your fans where they are, and less about just those streaming metrics because they can be really deceiving. There are a lot of great artists out there that don't have 1 billion streams. So if you want to know the latest entertainment research and insights and get that right to your inbox, you need to subscribe to MIDiA's newsletter. It'll have you covered. To subscribe, visit MIDiaresearch.com/newsletter.
Right. Well, and that story rolls right into this next story very well. This is from August Brown over at the Los Angeles Times. Spotify boycott. Artists leave, in quotation marks, garbage hole platform after CEO invests in AI weapons. This article discusses a growing boycott of Spotify by artists in response to the CEO Daniel Ek's investment in AI military technology through his firm Prima Materia. This controversy was ignited after Ek announced a significant investment in the European defense firm Helsing, which specializes in AI for military applications, including drones. Artists like Greg Sonier of Deerhoof, an influential band like Shoo Shoo and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, have pulled their music from the platform, criticizing Ek for profiting from military technology while artists struggle with low streaming payouts.
Right. The movement against Spotify reflects broader concerns about the ethics of the music streaming platform, especially in light of the controversial partnerships and the meager royalties that it offers artists, according to this article. Although the impact of individual bands leaving may be minimal on Spotify's vast revenues, it resonates with a growing sentiment among young fans who are increasingly concerned about corporate ethics, particularly regarding war and violence. While some of these artists are previously returning to the platform after boycotting, the recent actions seem to have struck a deeper chord, leading to the collective reassessment of the relationship between musicians and the streaming service.
Right. Well, this was actually a really long read, but here's a few of the key takeaways from the article. So Daniel Ek announced a $700 million investment in AI defense firm Helsing, sparking outrage among artists. Of course, artists criticize Spotify for meager payouts, estimated at just $3 per thousand streams. Deerhoof, I should say, was actually the first band to pull its catalog from Spotify in protest.
Right, and now influential bands like Shoo Shoo and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, they followed suit. Another point is that the boycott reflects concerns about Spotify's ethical stance and corporate practices. Young music fans are increasingly outraged by the platform's ties to military technology.
Right, and X investments are seen as morally incompatible with the music industry. So the Union of Musicians and Allied Workers has previously criticized X profit motives. Artists face varying challenges in removing their music from Spotify, though.
Right. Some of them will need to have label permissions. Some of them who put out their own, DIY distribution can just pull it. But the article goes deep into that. A few other points from this article is that the movement may seem to signify a cultural shift among musicians regarding streaming services. Daniel Ek's wealth, primarily from Spotify, creates a moral connection to his investments. And finally, the situation illustrates a growing awareness of corporate responsibility in the music industry.
Yeah, really interesting. That was the whole article was really interesting.
Yeah, we've been reading so much.
I think this is just the first, and it's going to be continuing.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more of these artists pull their music off of Spotify and taking a stand, and we'll see where this goes.
Indeed. Our next story is from our friend Tim Ingham over at Music Business Worldwide. Speaking of Spotify sees $16 billion wiped off market cap. Stock sinks 11.5% as social charges drag down profit outlooks. Spotify's stock price plunged 11.5% this last Tuesday, erasing over $16 billion from the streaming giant's market capitalization. One key factor in the tumble, as part of its Q2 earnings last week, the company's forecast lower than expected profits for Q3, partly due to mounting payroll taxes tied to its soaring share price.
That's right. And Tim goes on to write that all of this, despite Spotify delivering strong operational results in Q2, get this, they've got premium subscribers now growing to 276 million. That's up 8 million quarter over quarter. So paid premium, 276 million. And then monthly active users is now at 696 million. And that's up 18 million quarter over quarter. Tim says that, however, investors appear to have been spooked by Spotify's Q3 operating income guidance of $550 million, which fell well short of analyst estimates.
Right. Tim goes on to say Spotify's Q2 operating income also fell short of analyst expectations, weighing in below Spotify's own guidance for the quarter. And of course, if you're wondering what is guidance, as I was, in financial markets, this refers to a public company's official communication to the market regarding its expected near future financial performance, often including estimates for revenue or earnings per share.
Yeah, thanks for that. The profit shortfall was largely attributed to what Spotify calls social charges. And that includes payroll taxes in certain countries that are tied to the value of employee share-based compensation. So as Spotify's stock price has more than doubled over the past 12 months, these charges have ballooned dramatically. Really interesting as they sort of dig into, these numbers.
Yes, indeed. And then that slides right into the next story. It's by Elizabeth Diltz Marshall over at Billboard. Spotify's Q2 earnings results, what you should know. So here are some of the main takeaways from Spotify's second quarter 2025 financial results, along with comments executives made on a conference call discussing earnings.
Yeah, she writes that there's some comparisons to first quarter and future forecasts, and they disappoint. Total revenue, gross profit, and premium revenue in the second quarter were flat from the first quarter this year, despite being up double-digit percentages when compared to the company's second quarter performance a year ago. Some other metrics were actually down from the first quarter.
Right. So operating income declined 20% from the prior quarter, missing the company's forecast. Third quarter gross margin is forecast to fall slightly from the second quarter as the company sees more variability as it invests in growth initiatives. Daniel Ek, said, we've simply been moving too slowly and it's taking longer than expected to see the improvements we initiated to take hold.
Right. And finally, we need to expect subscriber and monthly average user growth to continue. Executives celebrated another quarter of net gains in paying subscribers. We talked about that a moment ago. And Alex Nordstrom, who's the co-president and chief business officer at Spotify, he said, it's not implausible to imagine us reaching 10 or even 15% of the world's population. They're currently at about 3%.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, our last story, it's from our friend Bruce Houghton over at Hypebot. FTC, that's the Federal Trade Commission, goes after ticket scalpers, seeks tens of millions in damages. So the United States Federal Trade Commission, that's the FTC, is taking legal action against ticket resellers for violation of the Bots Act, seeking tens of millions of dollars in penalties.
Yeah, ticket scalpers frequently use ticket buying bots, multiple accounts under pseudonyms, and other strategies to purchase concert and other event tickets for resale on platforms like StubHub, Vivid Seats, and SeatGeek.
Right. Well, the FTC has been looking into ticket resale separately from a Department of Justice investigation of Live Nation, Ticketmaster, concert promotion, venue management, and primary ticketing.
Yeah, the FTC is going after these ticket scalpers. News that they were aggressively enforcing the Better Online Ticket Sales, or BOTS Act, came after ticket reseller Key Investment Group, KIG, filed a lawsuit hoping to stop the FTC action.
Right. So manager and live music industry pundit Randy Nichols said this case matters. If the government can hold operators like KIG accountable, it sends a message to every other company exploiting fans through shady resale tactics. It also pressures platforms like Ticketmaster to clean up what they've quietly enabled.
Yeah, we've had Randy on the podcast, and we really appreciate his insights. So the BOTS Act is intended to stop software that circumvents ticket sales, that security to buy tickets. But the KIG argues this is not what KIG does. They say that the FTC believes the ticket limits set forth by the primary ticket issuer apply on a company level, not an individual level. So the FTC's novel interpretation of the BOTS Act would make many consumers and most companies, including nearly every Fortune 500 company, in violation of the law.
Right, but Randy Nichols goes on to say Key Investment Group's model involves using hundreds of Ticketmaster accounts, pseudonyms, and remote browsing tools to scoop up tickets and flip them on resale platforms. He said they claim it's legal because they didn't use bots. But let's be honest, it's functionally no different.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. And finally, this KIG, Key Investment Group, it also operates under other names like Total Tickets, Totally, and Front Rows Tickets. Plaintiffs in the lawsuit include IWLK Investments, Yair Rosmarin and Elon Rosmarin, as well as Taylor Kurth. And you may remember Taylor Kurth in 2018 was forced to pay Washington State $60,000 for using TicketBot software in violation of Washington's Ticket Sellers Act. So,
wow, well, it seemed like it kind of tickets, everything in the ticket world, it kind of died down a little bit, but now it's kind of coming back up to the surface, as it should.
Yeah.
And it is really fascinating how all of the different players in this in the environment of ticket purchasing and how it all works. It is scary and yet fascinating.
Yeah, and thank you, Randy Nichols, for staying on top of this. He's an artist manager. He's a friend of ours, and he's just a bulldog going after this. So kudos to Randy Nichols.
Indeed. Well, as we wrap up the show, we do want to thank our sponsors. We, of course, could not do it without them, our good friends over at Hypebot and Bands in Town. And we, of course, music by the Licorice Quartet underneath our advertiser announcements. And, if you listen to the show and you appreciate and like it, please tell just one friend. Jay and I would certainly appreciate that. And on behalf of my good friend, Jay Gilbert, I am Mike Etchart, and we say thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week on the Your Morning Coffee Podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.